Are we asking too much of our quarterback in this town?
You are Locked On Lions, your daily Detroit Lions podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's good, everybody? Thank you for joining us and welcome in. Matt Derry with you. It is Locked On Lions on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day on a Wednesday, June 11th, and a Thursday, June 12th. Yes, Thursday comes after Wednesday. Thank you for being with us, making us your first listen, checking us out wherever you get your podcast. Please subscribe and watch us for free on our Locked On Lions YouTube channel. But if you're finding us on Apple, Spotify, Google, wherever you get your podcast, thank you for being with us. Talking Detroit Lions football with you. We did 3 shows last week, 3 shows this week. Then next week, we are back starting on Tuesday of next week with the full week. So we'll be back with you, giving you all the content that you need, but taking a little bit of a smallish break, just like the Lions are. They won't be back in Allen Park as a full squad until next month for training camp. Locked On Lions today, brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. All right, a lot to get into today. Last week at the end of OTAs, another Lions veteran came forward to talk about Jared Goff and just how important he's going to be now that Frank Ragnow is gone. The question is, are we putting too much on his plate? We will get into that coming up momentarily. Also, Ben Johnson's at it again. Our buddy Mike Vanderpool, who's a longtime listener of mine going back to the 105.1, the 105 days. He loves taking shots at Ben Johnson, and he sent me something the other day that I got to talk about. The name of Avonte Maddox came up last week from Dan Campbell, and we will do our call of the day. If you want to be our call of the day, leave a voicemail at speakpipe.com/dairy podcast page. That is speakpipe.com/dairy podcast page if you want to be our call of the day. All right, what are we doing here? I'm just getting stuff together here. All right. So the other day, the legendary Dan Skipper. Does it get any better than Dan Skipper? Big Skip. Is there a backup player that has more cachet in any market than Dan Skipper? He's popular. Going back to catching touchdowns and the reporting issues in Dallas 2 years ago and all that stuff. Dan Skipper has been here through like 6 regimes, it seems like. But he shout out to Eamon Reynolds and Solly and the crew, Ellie, everybody down at Lions Media Relations. They made Dan Skipper available to the media last week. And I thought that was pretty cool. And one of the things he was asked about was the loss of Frank Ragnow. And he said, quote, "It's a tremendous loss. You can't minimize it. It puts a huge load on everyone else," all this stuff. And he talked about game plans and looks for the defense. And he said, Ragnow's not here. So collectively as a unit, whoever's playing center, they've got to do that. They've got to see the looks. And then he said this, Dan Skipper, quote, "Jared is going to shoulder some of that load too, but collectively, we all have to band together, find the weak points and stuff, and get better. At the end of the day, the game is going to go on after I'm gone, long after Frank's gone. We have to shoulder the load, pick it up, and go from there," end quote. So figuring out game plan, the looks that the other team's going to give on defense. Here's Dan Skipper saying Jared is going to have to shoulder some of that load. Fine. Jared Goff's a veteran. Jared Goff's entering his, age 30 season, all this stuff. Remember, when Ben Johnson left and took the Bears head coaching job, and no one's mad at that, okay? Ben Johnson deserves to be a head coach. It sucks he's in Chicago. We hate the Bears. Our man World of Isaac, rest in peace, used to say F the Bears, all that stuff. All right, Ben's taking little shots. Ben's in a feud with Matt LaFleur, whatever. But when Ben Johnson left, everybody said, well, Jared's just going to have some more say. Jared can audibilize the line of scrimmage. John Morton took the offensive coordinator job and said a couple of times, I'm working real close to Jared Goff. This is his offense. We're not going to change that much. Jared will have, a lot of say and a lot of voice in this match. So the Lions have lost. Whether we like this or not, this is reality. All right. And I'm not saying the Lions are going to suck. I'm not saying the Lions offense is in trouble. No, you win with talent. You got to have players. Bill Belichick said it. The guy's won like 8 Super Bowls. He said it. You got to have players. When Bill Belichick coached the Giants and was their defensive coordinator, he had Lawrence Taylor. When Bill Belichick coached the Patriots, he had Tom Brady. Now, could Belichick coach? Of course. Do you need to have a good coach in this league? Yes, you do. There are plenty of bad coaches in this league. Look at what the Chicago Bears have done over the last few years. Nothing, zero. And they've cycled through coaches. Matt Eberflus, Matt Eberluz, Mark Trestman. The list goes on and on. John Fox. The Lions have had the Bears have had bad coaches. Heck, the Lions. All right, we used to laugh at Rod Marinelli. We mocked Matt Patricia. All right, Dan Campbell's done a great job with his team, but there's also a lot of talent here. You got to have talent. Jared Goff has talent. Jared Goff can get it done. But losing Ragnow, losing Ben Johnson, and now asking Jared Goff, who a lot of people nationally say needs a good supporting cast around him in order to succeed. We always see that. Quarterback lists, quarterback tier lists with Mike Sando. Jared Goff has to have a good supporting cast around him. When Jared Goff had a great cast around him with the Rams, he was in the Super Bowl. When Jared Goff was asked to do more with the Rams and the cast maybe wasn't as good, he floundered a bit. His first year with the Lions was not great. It was fine. There were some ups, there were some downs. You questioned whether or not he was going to be the future. Remember when we went through that? Is Jared Goff the guy? Ooh, he drafted Hendon Hooker. Ooh, all this stuff. He's now the guy. He's making $50 million a year. All this is there. He's a damn good quarterback. But if Jared Goff has a bad offensive line, let's say the Lions interior, that O-line this year, which is going to have a new left guard, new center, new right guard, most likely, and that line starts getting pushed back and there's pressure in Jared Goff's face, oh boy, not his strong suit. So now we're asking. Dan Skipper says, oh, Frank Ragnow used to see the weird calls from the other team's defense before the snap, and he made those calls and he saw the formations on defense, and Jared will just do it. Oh, Ben Johnson's gone. The creativity, the genius, the guru, the stumble bum play. Jared will just do it. Does that scare you a little bit that they're putting all of this onto Jared? Or as a Lions fan, you're going, fine, Jared can handle it. Because there's a lot of people that don't think he can, that think that would be too much for him on his plate. How are the Lions better? Are they better with Frank Ragnow at center or Tate Ratledge at center right now? They're better with Frank Ragnow. Are the Lions better with Ben Johnson or John Morton? Ben Johnson. You're asking a lot of your quarterback, and I just hope the Lions are careful with how they handle this. Because Jared Goff, when put in a position with not a lot around him, 2021 was not that good. Wasn't bad, but it was Jared Goff's first year. He was all right. There were people saying, remember, and I know this guy's a buffoon, but Carlos Monarez from the Free Press wrote, Lions need their Justin Fields. No, but you catch my drift here. Is this a concern for fans? Because I'm a little concerned that just Dan Skipper says, oh, yeah, Ragnow did all this stuff that Jared will now do. Oh, yeah, Ben Johnson's gone. Morton's in. Jared will handle it. We're asking a lot of our quarterback right now. If protected, if the weapons are healthy, if Laporta's back to being rookie year Laporta, you got J-Mo playing for a contract. All these guys, I think the offense is going to be still really good. I do. But I just think we're asking a lot of Goff, and I think we need to be careful of that. That's all I'm saying. All right. Speaking of Ben Johnson, Benedict, something went on last week at OTAs for the Bears that I saw and was passed on to me by one of our everyday listeners, the great Mike Vanderpool, Heart of a Lions fan. If you've never seen the movie Heart of a Lions Fan, Google it, find it. Mike put it together. It was amazing years ago. I was in it for a little bit of a cameo. Albert Dale was in it. Come on, doesn't get any better than that. If you don't know who Albert Dale is, you just don't know Detroit sports. But Ben Johnson, shenanigans. We'll do that coming up next, right here on Locked On Lions. Locked On Lions today brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Yes, NBA Finals in full swing. All these games delivering highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, can't miss moments. Whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on the action. FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and live. With player props, performance trends, same-game parlays, fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. You're watching Pacers and Thunder, want to put some money down in the game, you got to do it at FanDuel. What would it look like to combine live prop bets mid-game based on how the action unfolds? You got to read on who is heating up. Why not back it up with the same game parlay? All right, do it all at FanDuel. If you're new to FanDuel, it's a perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. Again, place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, back on Locked On Lions, Wednesday edition. Hope everybody's having a great week right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Indeed, your team every day. Matt Derry with you. All right, so the Bears are at it again. Look, if you watch or listen to this podcast, you know that I've been mocking the Chicago Bears. I don't like the Bears, and I think that Ben Johnson has been very smarmy since he's gotten that coaching job there. I think he's going to do a good job, and I think the Bears have talent. All right, but I'm not ready to crown them like some others. So it was pointed out to me by my buddy Mike the other day. He sent me a video from OTAs at the Bears last week that Caleb Williams was running routes during Bears practice. They were getting him ready to maybe occasionally catch a pass or two. All right. You rarely see a quarterback going on a fly pattern or a go route down the sideline, but that's indeed what the Bears had going on. And of course, Bears fans are like, oh, this is going to be great. You know, halfback pass, or maybe Caleb takes a snap, hands it on a reverse and, and then runs down the sideline, gets the ball back. We've seen Jared Goff catch touchdown passes before. I think it was from David Montgomery, or maybe it was Gibbs last year. But Caleb Williams, yes, was running a route, a deep route down the field, and caught a pass and ran it into the end zone for a touchdown, just in a drill. It wasn't even a 7-on-7 or 11-on-11. Let me say this. The Bears can run a lot of trick plays. They can do a lot of things that are unconventional and creative, like the Lions did the last few years. And what Ben Johnson did with his offense and the trickeration and the creativity was unmatched. The Lions had the best offense in the league for a reason. They were ranked number, like I mentioned before, the stumble bum play where Goff looked like he was falling down. Look, the Jamison Williams reverse pass that was intercepted in the Commanders playoff game, that was a bleep show. Okay. But there were plays like that. The Decker play, the tackle eligible play, all these things that Ben Johnson came up with. There was some unbelievable play. How many hook and ladders did we see over the last 3 years under Benedict? Tons. The guy was great. The guy is great. But they better be very careful with how they use Caleb Williams. Because if Caleb Williams gets hurt, or they put Caleb Williams in that kind of position where he's going to be running down the field, catching a ball from, let's say, a receiver or a running back on a trick play, on a lateral or something. If something happens to that kid getting hurt on a play where he's playing receiver, or they're putting him in motion and doing all that, they better be careful. That's all I got to say. And yes, I know Tyson Bagent is their backup, and he's not bad. And there's fans in Chicago that actually like him, but you better be careful being too tricky when you're the head coach, right? It's one thing when Dan Campbell did some things and it was like, oh, put that on the coach, even if Ben Johnson called for it offensively. Campbell always took the credit or took the blame, or not took the credit, but he took the blame and took the bullets. When you're the head coach and you're also the play caller, you better be very careful. It worked in Detroit. It doesn't work everywhere. Lions also played indoors. A lot of those plays, the elements didn't come into a factor. So when I see Caleb Williams running routes on a video, good luck. Bears are going to have a good offense. They've got a lot of weapons. I love the kid from Missouri they drafted, Luther. They got two tight ends that can really play in Komet and Loveland. The receivers are good. I get it. But I saw that. I'm like, oh, man, you're showing this to us now? That Caleb Williams might be out on a pass pattern? Be careful of that. Yesterday, we talked about two players on the offense that Dan Campbell mentioned last week at OTAs that he really thinks shined during organized team activities. Those players were Jamison Williams and Jahmyr Gibbs. And he talked glowingly about those players. When asked the same question about the defense, and this comes from Detroit Football Network and Justin Rogers. When he mentioned the defense, and he said again, this is without pads, this is just shorts and helmets and stuff. Campbell said, quote, I also know this, the addition of Reed and Maddox, that looks good. Glad we got those guys. They'll fit right in with us. So he mentions Avonte Maddox in the same breath as DJ Reed. Now, he's not saying that Avonte Maddox is as good as DJ Reed. And yes, both of those guys came over during free agency. But the biggest get, maybe the best free agent the Lions have ever signed, we're going to find out in terms of money and everything else, could end up being DJ Reed, because he is here replacing Carlton Davis. He is here to be the number one corner. And that kid was a stud with the Jets. Very, very good football player. And I think now goes from number 2 cornerback in New York where he played with Sauce Gardner to number 1 here. And again, I'm hoping Terrion Arnold is so good that we're talking about 1A and 1B. But to also mention Avonte Maddox is interesting. Maddox is 32 years old. Maddox's best days are behind him. But he is somebody that I think the Lions are looking up saying, you know what? We're a little thin at safety. We've got 2 of the top 6, as we talked about last week, the PFF grades, the PFF rankings, 2 of the top 6 safeties in the entire NFL. In Brian Branch, who finished 5th on that list from Pro Football Focus last week from the rankings, and Kirby Joseph, who was 6th. The Lions safeties are the 2 best pair in the game. There's no arguing that. But, knock on wood, if someone goes down with injury, if somebody, let's say Brian Branch targets somebody and gets booted out of a game or something, which happens, who steps in? A year ago, Ifeatu Melifonwu, and really the last 2 years, Ifeatu Melifonwu did a nice job as a Lions third safety, and at times had to be a starter when Branch had to move down and be a corner again. So I think they think Avonte Maddox probably can't play corner again. Probably just doesn't have the speed, doesn't have the ability like he used to 10 years ago when he was a younger player. But maybe you put Avonte Maddox at safety and he will not hurt you. He's a veteran player that is a winning player coming from Philadelphia. He's from Detroit, went to King High School, has a Lions tattoo, always wanted to play here. And I think is going to have a resurrection here as a good bit player and a guy that you can rely on at least. You need an extra DB on the field, need somebody to fill in at corner, need somebody to fill in at safety. And the fact that Dan Campbell really liked what they saw from him at OTAs and mentioned his name is good. And because we're going to play our call of the day coming up momentarily, and that has to do with what the secondary looks like. But Avonte Maddox is a guy that signed late. A lot of teams were not interested in. Eagles let him walk. I mean, we're talking about the Philadelphia Eagles here. All right. You always want to have veteran players as a part of all of the units. Eagles had a really young secondary last year, and a guy like Maddox, did a great job in tutoring some of those young dudes that they got. Cooper Jean and Quinyon, and those guys are really good players. But Avonte Maddox being there helps. So I think you're going to see him most likely as the third safety right now. But there probably could be another name mentioned in that mix too, which I will bring up also coming up next when we do our call of the day. If you want to be our call of the day, remember, go to speakpipe.com/Derry, DERY podcast page. Leave a voicemail there, make it a minute or less. Do not swear. And we will play our call of the day on the air if we like it. Today's we liked, and we're going to play that coming up next right here on Locked On Lions. But first, Locked On Lions brought to you by our friends at Skylight Frames. All right, listen up. You got calendars, right? Everybody's got like a shared calendar on the refrigerator, or maybe it's posted up somewhere in your kitchen with the family. Some of you might use some other shared calendars. It's just not working. All right. It's just not working. But the Skylight calendar works. It keeps you organized. Skylight frames are the best. All right. You get their 15-inch calendar, and it just feels like you know exactly what you're doing. You know exactly where everybody's going. Everybody's got responsibilities in the house, but you're not messing with it. All right. Skylight calendars are just the best thing to do. All right. All you got to do is go to skylightcal.com/NFL and check it out for yourself. And right now, Skylight is offering our Locked On listeners $30 off their 15-inch calendars by going to skylightcal.com/NFL. Stop messing with these other shared calendars. They're messy. They don't work. Handwritten stuff on the fridge, on the whiteboard. No, forget it. Skylight calendars. Skylightcal.com/NFL. Locked On Lions listeners, you're getting $30 off your first 15-inch calendar by going to skylightcal.com/NFL. All right, it's been a while, but time to do our call of the day. We always love this segment, hearing from you, the listeners, the fans. We appreciate all of our everydayers that are out there. And shouts to all of you. Appreciate everybody that checks us out daily, does the call-ins. You know who you are, and appreciate all of you. All right. Today, Jordan Wilson checking in with an interesting question, our call of the day.
Hey, Matt, how's it going? Jordan, longtime listener, first-time caller, everyday listener, actually. I just wanted to speak on yesterday's safety list. PFF and you both said that Kirby had a league-tying 8 interceptions last year. Kirby had 9 interceptions last year. He was actually the league leader. And although I do not disagree with the list, it feels nice to have 2 top 6 safeties. I don't think that Antoine Winfield is better than either one of those guys currently. But what I'm calling to ask is, if somebody in our secondary goes down, even including corners, who do you see this year stepping up and kind of being that unsung hero? Appreciate you. Thank you. I love your podcast. Take care.
Awesome. Love to hear from first-timers like Jordan Wilson. And Jordan is right, and shame on me for not correcting what PFF wrote last week. Look, everybody makes mistakes. Everybody has those days. Who's saying that? Somebody did. But I just said that. But Jordan is right. Kirby Joseph led the NFL with 9 interceptions last year. Xavier McKinney, who was number 2 on that safety list that we talked about last week, with Kyle Hamilton being number 1, had 8 interceptions. So Kirby Joseph is the GOAT of interceptions from last year. The interception king last year did have 9. So Jordan is right. Interesting though, we talked about this last week. Go back and watch, I think it was last Wednesday's show. We talked about the fact that PFF had Brian Branch ranked number 5 as far as safeties go, and Kirby Joseph number 6. I believe it went Kyle Hamilton 1, Xavier McKinney 2, Jesse Bates 3, Antoine Winfield 4, which I disagreed with. I will take Branch and Kirby over Antoine right now. Winfield did not have a good year this past year. Still a very good player. Still a top safety, but not as good as our guys. But Jordan just asked the question, what if something happens to those guys? Who steps up? We just mentioned Avonte Maddox. Avonte Maddox is going to be somebody that is going to be important to the team. And already getting props from Campbell. But Lawrence Strickland is a name to watch. Undrafted rookie free agent last year, who was absolutely the talk of training camp on the defensive side of the ball a year ago. This was a dude that was torpedoing people, and they really liked. Now, didn't get a ton of burn last year in terms of reps and playing time, but is on this roster and is somebody to keep an eye on. Lawrence Strickland. I'm not sure the franchise knows where to put him yet. I think that he's kind of in that Buda Baker mold a little undersized to play linebacker, maybe even a little bit undersized to be a corner. Like he's a little dude, Strickland, but he packs a punch. He can really tackle. And I think last year they almost redshirted him a little bit in not playing him much, similar to what they did with Giovanni Manu on the offensive side, to take a longer look at him and to see if this is a guy that can be a part of the future. These are the kind of players, going back to when Brad Holmes discovered a Jerry Jacobs. These are the kind of players that Brad Holmes unearths at times. You know, Sione Vaki is a guy they traded up to get last year that they want to put at running back when mostly played safety at Utah and then had to kind of fill in as running back when other backs got hurt years ago. But Brad Holmes fell in love with him, and eventually you're going to see him on the field. I don't know where, when, how, but they'll find a way. Same thing I think goes for a guy like Strickland. So Jordan asked, and I think that is a player to maybe keep an eye on as a depth piece. And they love moving guys around. Brian Branch can play corner. Brian Branch can play safety. Can Strickland play corner and safety? Maddox can play corner and safety. That's always kind of been how this franchise has done it, even going back to guys like Josh Pascal, who can either line up on the interior of the defensive line or in an edge spot. So good question from Jordan. And again, speakpipe.com/dairy podcast page if you want to be our call of the day. All right, another week in the books. If you missed Andrew Siciliano from Monday, very good discussion with Drew. Siciliano show on YouTube, and of course, the voice of the Cleveland Browns as well, formerly of the NFL Network. We talked about the Ragnow retirement and much more with Andrew. Go back. That was on Monday's show. I'll go back and find that to wherever you get your podcast. Thank you, and a shout out to my guy, Ross Jackson, who's the host of the Locked On Saints podcast, but also runs Locked On NFL Network and just takes care of us. Ross is doing me a huge solid this week and helping me with production stuff. Appreciate Ross very much. We'll be back again on Monday.